Peace and blessings. Welcome back to the channel once again, where we talk all things health and healing from a holistic perspective, and today will be no different. Today I'm going to explain to you why I decided to let go of all animal products 13 years ago. Okay, now let me give you this caveat. I grew up eating the standard American diet. I ate beans and potatoes and steak and chicken and everything you can name. My mom is a Southern woman, and she's the best cook in our family. And so I grew up, eating that kind of food. And I love that kind of food, okay? But I think what's important to understand is that at one point in my journey, I got really unhealthy, like 50 pounds overweight and sleep apnea unhealthy, and also high blood pressure unhealthy, like stroke level high blood pressure unhealthy. And at that point, I had to make a decision. And I made the decision to choose whatever was health. Because what I didn't want to do is have a heart attack or a stroke and have paralysis on either side of my body or both sides of my body, or have long-lasting issues with my brain function. And I think above all things, I wanted my brain to always be intact. And so working in the hospital and seeing people who were coming in their 30s, late 20s, having heart attacks and strokes, it woke me up really quickly to see somebody who looked like me, same age, have a heart attack or a stroke. And so I quickly decided for myself that whatever diet it took, whatever exercise it took, whatever it took for me to get healthy, that's what I was gonna do. And I tried absolutely everything. I tried every diet you can think of, and some of them would help for a few months and then ultimately would not help. Some of them I lost weight, but I didn't normalize my blood pressure, and I still had sleep apnea. And so choosing the diet and the lifestyle that I live now was the only thing that had lasting effects in terms of my weight. I've never put back on the weight. In terms of my high blood pressure, I got diagnosed with high blood pressure at 16. I've never seen a high blood pressure reading since I changed my lifestyle. The sleep apnea completely went away. And so for me, it wasn't just about how I looked physically. It was also about the fact that I didn't want to die an early death, and I didn't want to have to suffer, something like a stroke and have permanent damage. And I wanted something that was gonna be permanent. I didn't want something that was gonna be, I lost a couple of pounds, I looked great on the outside, but I was really unhealthy on the inside. So that's why I'm deciding to do this video. In addition, I know that the carnivore movement is a really big thing for a lot of people. And some people do experience some benefits, like weight loss and other benefits. But you should really look at the long-term data on that. And the long-term data can't be something 3 to 6 months. It has to be something very significant, a few years. And like I said before, I've been on this journey for over 13 years. I do know people who are plant-based, using air quotes, who are vegan, using air quotes, and they are very unhealthy. And so what I will tell you is that I eat a natural diet, a diet that if it didn't grow from the ground, I pretty much put it down. And so I think that is very different from eating a diet that is just abstaining from animal products versus a diet that is abstaining from animal products, but you're eating real food, not Doritos because they're vegan. And so I think that's a really, really important point. And I also see, the meat bros in my comments, and even some of the meat girls in my comments saying you need meat to survive, okay? And so I'm gonna give you the 13 reasons why I decided to let go of all animal products 13 years ago. And that'll help you understand my position and maybe even give you some insight on why this may be good for you as well too, okay? So reason number one, I mentioned it before. Reason number one is I tried everything that was out there, Jenny Craig, Mediterranean, Atkins, you name it, Nutrisystems, whatever. Short-term results ultimately ended in me gaining the weight back and never resulted in me having a normalized blood pressure. But when I stopped eating animal products and started eating plants, most importantly, the caveat, my blood pressure normalized. I had never seen it normal because before I got diagnosed with high blood pressure, I never knew anything about my blood pressure. So the first time I was told about my blood pressure was me getting a high blood pressure diagnosis. So that was the first time I had ever seen it normal in my life. And that was really my primary focus as to why I was deciding to change my lifestyle. So that's reason number one. I wanted to save my life so I didn't have a heart attack or stroke, okay? And I had plenty of people in my family who not only had them, but I also had passed away as a result of them, okay? So that's number one. Number two, because I also found out that I had inflammation all over my body. I was 28 years old and I still was having issues with walking up the stairs and, like feeling horrible after workouts, just always feeling inflamed. And as soon as I let the animal products go, namely, meat and dairy, all that inflammation went away. And so that was enough for me because now I can play basketball more often and longer. And I can work out more often. So that was another big plus for me. Number three, discovering the impact on kidneys. Now, one of the things I noticed while working in the hospital was one of the things that would happen when we would have people who had kidney issues is we would protein restrict them. Okay, we would restrict their protein. Anytime somebody had some issues with their kidneys, like chronic kidney disease. So that told me if we're gonna protein restrict someone, specifically animal protein, then it probably means that animal protein is kind of harsh on the kidneys. So as a result, we know that the kidneys are directly correlated with blood pressure. And so for me, it was like, okay, if I want to keep my normal blood pressure or really great blood pressure, then I had to protect my kidneys, okay? And so ditching animal products, among other things, especially processed foods, really help, okay? The other reason, number four, I decided to ditch meat and animal products was because American meat is banned in over 30 countries, okay? American meat is banned. Let me give you a few examples. Pork, okay, the pig, banned in over 30 countries because they feed pigs ractopamine, okay? So, which is very toxic, okay? Chicken, banned in over 30 countries because they clean chicken with chlorine. Chlorine is a known carcinogen, okay? Not to mention they're putting tons of hormones and antibiotics in these animals as well that affect our health negatively, not in a positive way, okay? So chicken banned in other countries. Beef, I'm sure you've seen the commercials about beef and how you've had these mad cow diseases and a lot of the meat has cancer in it and you can actually see it if you understand what it looks like. Sometimes they cut it out, sometimes they forget. So essentially most of the meat, including fish in many cases, which is most often factory farmed fish, which has a lot of dioxins, a lot of heavy metals, a lot of antibiotics, that these fish essentially are in these small ponds with thousands of fish. And they're feeding them GMO corn and soy and things of that nature. So this is why America's meat is banned in over 30 countries. And so this is another reason why I don't eat animal products as well too. Number five, parasites, okay? And I'm sure you've seen many videos and sometimes you've probably even seen it in your meat products. I've had people send me plenty of videos where they follow me, but they still eat meat and then they find some sort of parasite in their meat and then they're all done at that point. And so parasites are very commonly found in meat, not just undercooked meat, but in meat, period. Because although heat can kill the parasite, it doesn't kill the larva, the eggs, okay, that the parasites lay in the meat, okay? So another reason why I don't eat meat. Number six is, unfortunately today, most meat, a lot of meat in the stores now is lab grown and genetically modified. Okay, lab grown and genetically modified. You can go online and check that out. The FDA approved lab-grown meat. And I think Italy and a few other countries have now banned it because it just came out. I mean, American meat was already banned, but now they're making lab-grown meat and genetically modified meat. Genetically modified being the salmon that they made genetically modified, and I've talked about that extensively. But also they're making genetically modified chicken and beef as well too, okay? And a lot of this is mixed into the same meat that you don't even know what it is, okay? And it is my opinion that they just approved it, but it's been on the market for quite some time, and you've been eating this type of meat. That's same, and I always tell vegans that impossible and beyond this, and that meat is just as tragic as the meat I'm speaking about also, okay? All right, and number seven, one of the things that I learned, because we're all programmed in some way or indoctrinated with a lot of the nutritional dogma that is out there, all protein really comes from plants, okay? I could explain that, but to be honest with you, if you understand what protein is made of, proteins are made of amino acids. An amino is nitrogen, okay? Nitrogen comes from the air and it comes from the soil, and no animal is capable of pulling nitrogen out of the air. So to make an amino, you need to have nitrogen. And so essentially to get that nitrogen, plants are pulling that nitrogen out of the air to make the aminos, okay? And so when you eat protein, or you're trying to get protein in your diet, what you really need is amino acids, because if you get all of the amino acids that you need, they can make any protein that you need, okay? Protein is just like the brick house. The amino acids are the individual bricks, okay? We make certain amino acids, and then we need to get other amino acids from our diet, okay? These are essential amino acids. And all of those 9 amino acids you can get from plants. And so when I found that out, I'm like, okay, well, I'm not gonna die of protein restriction. So it's cool with me. I can eat plants to replace my protein. So that was another reason why I was like, okay, cool, let's make the transition. Another reason is because of what I call spiritual karma. Now, this is for me. I'm not saying this is for you, but this is a reason why I decided. Spiritual karma. And what I mean by that is that when I don't eat meat, it means that nothing has to die, so I have to live. And I like that, you know. So for me, you know, if you've ever seen a livestock farm and how they actually look, if you've ever had, and this is for most people, not all people, because you got people who live on farms who have no problem, but if you had to butcher your own meat, most people would not eat meat. If people had the opportunity to go on factory farms where like 90% of all meat or animals are grown, most people would not eat meat. And so, you know, and you never think about what it would be like if somebody were coming to chop you, to kill you, the type of stress hormones that are created in the body, like cortisol and adrenaline, and how toxic that is to the body for an individual. And imagine you eating that toxicity and you're eating that death. And so like for me, that spiritual karma, I wanted to correct it. And I grew up in a very violent neighborhood. So for me, this is my form of correcting what I had seen, witnessed, and been a part of in myself, okay? Number 9, okay? Also, I learned that processed meats and red meat increases the risk of colorectal cancer. And for those of you who don't know, African Americans are 2 to 3 times more likely to be diagnosed with colorectal cancer and have a 40% increased risk of dying of colorectal cancer as compared to our counterparts. And so colorectal cancer is a big issue. Is one of the reasons I lost one of my grandparents. And so processed meats, red meats, which is something that I grew up on, unfortunately, removing from my diet, it removes one of the things that unfortunately I'm at a risk factor for because of my family history, okay? And number 10, because I removed it because I found one study that showed that eating a half a serving of red meat daily increase your risk for type 2 diabetes by 48%. And as I told you guys, my family is riddled with diabetes. Okay, so if I can essentially decrease my risk by 50% by removing something that I don't need and I can sustain myself without, then it made a whole lot of sense to me. Okay, that's number 10. Number 11. Number 11, when I learned that the strongest animals in the world were herbivores, not carnivores. So some of the strongest animals in the world, let me name them off. A rhinoceros, so a rhino, okay? An elephant, okay? A gorilla, okay? An ox, a bull. I mean, I can go on and on and on, but about 70% of the world's animals are herbivores. The vast majority of the world's animals are herbivores, and the strongest animals in the world are herbivores. People love to lean on, predators like a tiger or, lion, cheetah, etc., that are carnivores. But people forget, we're not built anatomically in any way for us to be a carnivore, okay? Carnivores, when you think about it, their jaw structure only goes like this, okay? That's for ripping meat. All herbivores, your jaws can go like this. Carnivores don't do that, okay? When you look at a lion, they actually have little prickles on their teeth that help them tear away at meat, okay? I'm not on their teeth, but on their tongue, okay? Their saliva isn't alkaline like ours, it's acidic. And their stomach acid is far more acidic. And not only that, when you look at their digestive system, it's about 1/3 the length of ours. Most herbivores, things that eat plants, have a long digestive system like ours is 30 feet and can be over 30 feet. And so when you look at, most carnivores have night visions. Not to mention the teeth, the canines. These are not canines, my friend. Okay, so when I started to look at how we're made up, we don't have claws. These things are not ripping through anything. If you ever pushed on like a cow or, even a pig, these things are sturdy. You're not gonna tear through that or bite through the skin or anything. We're not built for that. And so have we been consuming meat for thousands of years? Yeah, but definitely not at the rate that we've been consuming meat. Okay, and definitely just because we do something doesn't mean that it's something that we should do. Slavery happened, doesn't mean that we should do it again. Okay, so that was another conversation that I had with myself as well. Okay, we got ancestors that eat it. Well, we got ancestors that don't. The Egyptians were primarily vegetarian. Okay, so Egyptians are well known as the most advanced civilization, if you go back in the history. So why not be like the Egyptians, I said. All right, so the other thing, number 12, that I sort of understood was that after the initial phase, which I have to be honest with, initially I lost a lot. I lost weight so quick when I stopped eating meat and started eating plants that I got afraid that I was gonna be weak. And most of the fear probably came from other people because they were afraid because I was losing weight, and most people were like, are you sick? Not to mention I was the healthiest I ever was in my life, but I can see why they thought I was getting sick, and I can see why I thought that I was getting weak. And initially, to be honest, I did. But you gotta remember, I'm washing away at that point 2 decades of toxicity, bad eating, a bad lifestyle. So not only am I not consuming, the amount of protein that I used to consume, but I'm losing all the waste out of my body, and that's causing my body to go into detoxification. And when your body is in detoxification, it's in a state of rest, okay? So a lot of that energy that I felt like I was losing and the strength, a lot of it was coming from the body needed to go into a state of detoxification and cleansing to get rid of all this stuff that it had been holding on to. And so initially I thought I was thinking like, yes, this has been cool, but I need to be strong. I'm used to being strong. I was the athlete. I need to be able to push around when I play basketball. Well, what I noticed was I definitely improved in endurance and stamina, which at the time my ex-girlfriend loved. But the big thing I noticed was that I eventually got my strength back. Once my body got out of that weight loss, getting rid of waste phase, I was able to gain my strength back and maintain it. So I'm like, why not be healthy and strong? I mean, this is why you're starting to see a large group of high performing athletes, everyone from Kyrie Irving to Chris Paul. I think even Tom Brady is primarily plant-based during the playing season. Serena and Venus Williams primarily plant-based during the season, and I think Venus is plant-based, period. And so I think it's important to know, like, you can still be strong, and plant power. So, and then the last one was after I read the China study, which is one of the most comprehensive studies done on nutrition. And I love the way they did this study. And after reading this study, it made a lot of sense to me. And then also living in a blue zone, Okinawa, Japan, for 4.5 years, and seeing the people who live to be 100, one of the more consistent blue zones to do it, and having the largest population, and noticing that the large majority of their diet was not meat. They use meat to flavor a lot of their food. A lot of people think that the people in Ogami Village, not Okinawa, but Ogami Village, the centenarian village, a lot of people was under the impression that they ate like Okinawans. No, they ate like traditional Okinawans, okay? Which was very different, and their diet was mostly plants. And this convinced me, after moving to Japan and living there for 4.5 years, that, all right, cool. This has a longevity, component to it, in addition to all the other benefits that I experienced. So I hope you have enjoyed this video. Hope this gives you a little bit of guidance if you're on the journey as well too. And this is why I decided to stop eating animal products about 13 years ago. Until the next time, peace and blessings and Godspeed.